And many thanks for your time tonight with me on Business Live. Welcome back. The Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC, is calling for an integrated infrastructure development plan for the agri sector as it throws the spotlight on agribusiness at this year's Ghana Club 100 Awards. CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, has been speaking ahead of tonight's landmark event.
It's believed that over close to 55% of our population is engaged somewhere in the industry along the value chain, either in the production, the processing, the selling and merchandising of agriculture. And if that's the case, then it's it takes quite a lot of effort from our people. And we believe that we do have what it takes to make it the basis or the foundations of our industrial policy by value addition. It may not require as much as to require for industry, but for actual manufacturing, but for processing of agricultural goods, I think we do have the foundations to make that happen more significantly. It is the low-hanging fruit of industrialization.
Okay, so looking at the fact that this time you wanted to feature heavily for Ghana Club 100 Awards, what are your plans for the sector in terms of helping drive the industrialization agenda, even growing that particular industry, that's agribusiness? Because you realize most of the award winners at the end of the year, it's usually from the other sectors like mining, among others. What are you going to do?
Well, there are some winners who come. There are some big players in the agri sector, but yes, I agree with you that we probably have to see a lot more. And I do concede that over the years, we've seen investment and agriculture decline. But this year, yes, we've seen an increase in agricultural investment from foreign direct investment. If you look at the numbers, in 2018, agricultural receipts as part of the budget grew from 441 million in 2017 to 591 million in 2018. So we are seeing some growth in there, but we're also seeing some investment growth as well. And we expect that should really set the pace to grow the sector as a contribution to the economy. But beyond that, I mean, just look at some of government's big policies, which have been phenomenally transformational. For example, planting for food and jobs. And for once, we see our country now becoming a net exporter of some of the food crops that we used to import, plantain, maize, etc., etc. But it's all because government itself has also put a lot of investment in it.
How do you make it more attractive to investors?
Well, you do have, agriculture already has incentives, a lot of incentives. There is nothing more attractive to an investor than a market. Once the market is sorted out and the value chain within the market itself is sorted out, then you see a lot of people put investment. As it is right now, we still lack enough warehousing, we lack enough pack houses, we don't have enough cold houses, some of the agricultural routes are really terrible, and so haulage is a problem. Once these things are fixed with some of the facilities that are there in government's own program, you will see that there will be more acceptance by the market.
Let's turn attention now to the oil and gas sector. As part of its commitment to deepening local content participation, oil exploration firm Tullow Ghana has awarded contracts to the tune of $240 million to indigenous companies representing about 31% of its total spending. According to the firm, this is part of efforts to empower Ghanaian professionals to contribute to the socio-economic development of the country. Executive Vice President of Tullow Oil PLC, Kwekwa Otwi, spoke with Joy Business at a local content recognition dinner where Tullow rewarded 30 local suppliers for their dedication to local content development in the country.
From an industry that has close to zero local content expenditure about a decade ago, Tullow Oil Ghana has between 2010 and 2018 awarded in excess of $10 billion worth of contracts to indigenous and joint venture companies with indigenous equity participation. This is out of a total of $16.4 billion worth of contracts awarded. According to the Executive Vice President of Tullow Oil PLC, Kweku Aoche, Tullow is committed to making local content represent the majority of the entire oil and gas sector cake.
Ghana has been mining for 100 years. And if you go to cities like Obuasi and Takwa, you wonder what happened to the money. So if we don't develop local content in Ghana in a meaningful way, our cities will become like Obuasi and Takwa. And we don't want that to happen again after another 100 years. So local content is very important because for the money to stay in the country, we need to build capacity. We need to train people. We need to train people to be the welders. We need people to be trained to be the managers. And we need people to form the companies to supply the products, the goods and services to supply the industry.
Talo has also hinted of plans to award marine vessel area contracts to indigenous companies in 5 to 10 years. Meanwhile, Director of Petroleum and Upstream at the Ministry of Energy, Ben Asante, has lauded Talo Oil and expressed the ministry's commitment to the oil and gas sector.
Together we can succeed. Let's work together. I want to promise all of you here that the ministry is ready to support you. The ministry is ready to help you so that together we can all succeed as a country within the oil industry, that we don't need people to tell us what to do because we know what to do.
The Talo Oil Contents Award saw providers of heavy lifts in Ghana, Moby Crane, recognized as longest-serving indigenous suppliers. Other winners include Consolidated Shipping Agencies Limited, Rig World International Services, Results Advertising, Goyle, among others. Bismarck Ausas reports for Joy Business.
Now, former President John Dramani Mahama has stated that the resumption of commercial flights at the Wa Airport will open the region up to more business opportunities and stimulate development. Addressing the climax of the Dumba Festival celebrated by the chiefs and people of the Wala traditional area, former President Mahama stated that there is a lot of business potential in the region and expressed the hope that having daily flight schedules would further boost businesses. Africa World Airlines resumed commercial flights operations at the Wa Airport a month ago. Rafiq Salam has more in this report.
It's also very welcome, and it improves access to the region for business people, for tourists, and actually the residents of Wa itself.
Elaborating on the issue of the commercial flights, John Dramani Mahama observed that the demand is huge, and yet the 3 times flight a week allocated to passengers is inadequate. He appealed to the authorities to add more flights to the Watamal-Accra route to take care of the growing number of passengers.
It is worthy to note that I was supposed to arrive this morning at the Wa Airport with the Africa World Airlines. Unfortunately, the seats reserved for the Wa flight were all fully booked. I therefore had to fly to Tamale and drive 3 hours by road to get to Wa on time for this festival. This confirms the vision behind the development of the Wa Airport as a viable commercial aviation destination. And I'm sure that in the near future, there will be daily direct flights between Accra and Wa.
The former president also touched on the 2019 budget.
The upgrading of roads in Wa and the Upper West region is a critical infrastructure that needs to be continued. As president, we started the asphalting of Wa Town roads and the upgrading of various roads in the Upper West region. It is my hope that these projects will be continued under the budget that was read yesterday by the Finance Minister.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
Turning attention to the Ashanti region now, the Faculty of Creative Arts and Technology at the Kumasi Technical University is advocating fashion design in government's One District, One Factory program. Dean of the faculty, Reverend Dr. Timothy Krensel, said the increase in demand for locally made textiles makes such initiative imperative. He noted this at the unveiling of a new cloth by the university in Kumasi.
Dr. Krensel believes creating spaces for designers to operate is important for realizing this vision. He says they will be able to do more if they are given the needed equipment.
I am very concerned about the spaces where designers work. You see, the if they get very spacious places where we have facilities that could be given to designers at low rental charges, so that at least if you go to the workshop of a fashion designer, there is a space for the machinery, there is a space for the cutting, there is a space for fitting and all those things, and even a showroom and platforms where they can market their goods and services through these fairs and trade shows and all those things. It helps to also to promote the industry. When it comes to the fabrics, getting the right machinery, let's say the machinery also, where they have state-of-the-art machinery to work with to speed up the work and all those things. I think those are some of the interventions government can come in.
The unveiling of the new cloth is in accordance with the new status of the university. Vice Chancellor Professor Oseusu Achiang believes it reflects the values the university seeks to portray.
The then polytechnics, which we were part of, were recently converted into technical universities. By that conversion, we have become a new entity. So necessarily, we need to present a new face to the whole world. So the unveiling is symbolic of this new identity that we have assumed. But beyond that, we also have a new set of leadership here in the university. So the symbolism also extends to this new management that the university have, portraying new ways of doing things, new work ethics, values that we bring on board. So,
reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Over 3,000 artisans in the Ashanti region are expected to benefit from a project implemented by the Council for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, COTVET. The project, aimed at achieving sustainable and inclusive economic growth in the private sector, is being funded by Government of Ghana and the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. There's more in this report.
Kumasi Technical University is facilitating the training in garment, automotive, consumer electronics, as well as welding and fabrication. Apprentices, master craftspersons and entrepreneurs from the informal and formally registered micro and small enterprises will enjoy a defined quality criteria. KSTU shall provide competency-based training in the COTVET National TVET Qualification Framework. Dr. Julius Boklo is coordinator for the program.
The professional standards which we're using for the training. This professional standard is actually international standard and can be used anywhere. Our aim or target is to train a lot of people. We want to reach out to the informal sector and then through the associations get as many students, around 3,000 within the 3 years, of the existence of this program, to train more than 3,000. That is our target, because we've seen that Kumasi is a very big city, and the informal sector over here is very large, and so we're working with associations to bring in more people. This program, for instance, inauguration ceremony, is just to sell it, the idea, and then get the associations to bring in more people. Currently, for the garment sector, we're dealing with 3 associations, and then the electronic sector, we're dealing with also 2 associations, and then the automotive repair, we're also dealing with 1 association. We intend to get more associations to organize and then bring in more people, because the Ghana TVET project prefers to deal with the associations, association of garages, association of dressmakers, association, that sort of thing.
Some of the beneficiaries are optimistic the training will improve their working conditions and future prospects.
I sua sɛ nea yɛka brɔfo yɛmu bebree wɔ hɔ a yɛantoa schools nti yɛnim deɛ ne wɔ fam nanso ɔmo kyerɛ yɛn kwan yɛ bɛfa so a brɔfo nketenkete yɛde bɛyi yɛn ho ano ɛwɔ adwuma mu.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
And still in the Ashanti region, a policy analyst is urging speedy implementation of the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy to push the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. Professor Rudy King of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology says Ghana's quest to achieve the SDGs is stagnating because the policy document finalized in 2017 has been shelved. He was speaking at a statistical analysis training workshop in Kumasi.
Professor King believes Ghana's development depends on implementing the policy to address the country's problems in science, technology and innovation.
We want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. We require nothing but science, and any delay in ensuring that we mainstream science in the things we do in this country will prevent us from achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. These goals, 17 goals, require nothing but science. We are talking about flooding, we are talking about climate change, we are talking about urban issues that require nothing but science to help us to address them. So we need innovations, we need to do things differently, we need new ways of doing things. Our water bodies are all dirty and we are all worried about it. What do? It is the scientists that can help us to clean these water bodies and to have life in the water that can sustain us, because it's all about the environment, and science is the only way we can use to sustain our environment for life. So for me, any delay in ensuring the implementation of the STI policy can affect us and can delay our attainment of the Sustainable Development Goal.
27 women scientists from Ghana and Nigeria are attending the statistical analysis training. Here in University Laboratory for Interdisciplinary Statistical Analysis is facilitating the training to promote collaboration between researchers and policymakers. Professor Tinike Olusula Adibanje is program coordinator.
This workshop was on data science and the statistical competence, building statistical competence for the participants, as well as looking at policy formulations and implementations. And this is the second workshop, and this focuses more on leadership, building skills and competencies for the women in people management, person management, and as well as career development.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
And back in Accra, government has strongly defended its revenue and macroeconomic targets outlined in the 2020 budget. This follows concerns that the revenue targets as well as macroeconomic targets in the budget are ambitious. George Jaffe tells us more.
The concerns have come up again following revelations that government missed out on its revenue target as at the end of September this year. This was more than 5 billion Ghana cedis short of what it is hoping to realize. Many are of the view that this would have influenced the finance minister's projection for next year. However, it looks like it didn't affect that. He's now looking at mobilizing 67 billion Ghana cedis. This is about 13 billion Ghana cedis more than what it is hoping to get in 2019. But speaking to Joy Business, Deputy Minister of Finance Kuku Kwatin insists they have instituted some fresh measures that will help them meet the 2020 revenue target. For some economists, they are worried about this target because of its impact on the budget deficit, which has been pegged in cash terms as 19 billion Ghana cedis. And let's look at its implications for the economy going forward. This is because mobilizing more taxes are seen as a major source of funding for government financial operations. But the question many are asking themselves that will the country be able to get the solution or the answer to mobilizing the required taxes, looking at the size of our economy and the kind of activities that are currently taking place in the economy.
Meanwhile, many people have described government's revenue projections as ambitious. However, government officials believe it can be achieved with some reforms such as revamping of the GRA to utilize technology to drive tax revenue mobilization. Anthony Sapong is senior partner at accounting firm KPMG. He shares some thoughts on PM Express on JoyNews.
You bring onto yourself additional challenges that disturbs the economy, that disturb the macro stability that businesses need to survive. And therefore, talking about domestic revenue is one of the key things that I'm happy that this budget, the minister has signaled that they are going to work on. And if you look at where they are going to work on, they are saying that I'm not going to create new taxes, but let me look at the efficiency and effectiveness with which we can even mobilize from what we have. And one of the critical things is mentioned is introduction of technology. GRA for some time has been implementing some form of technology to assist in the mobilization of revenue. But at the end of the day, I think there's still some way to go. And these are some of the areas that I believe, based on what has been done so far to date, they can enhance it. And I'll give some good examples. In the area of withholding tax, we have implemented withholding tax for a long time. So for instance, if KPMG provides a service to an institution and the service is paying KPMG, depending upon the types of service, that entity will withhold 5% or 7.5%, depending upon the type of service. So that 5% will be paid by that institution and hand over to GRA, quoting that KPMG provided service A to me and I've paid this tax. If we have technology that will be able to trace all withholding taxes that various businesses have deducted from the service provider, at the end of the day, GRA will be able to determine and say, at a minimum, at least once withholding tax has been deducted, at a minimum, this is your income. Because one of the things we struggle with in this country is identify the accurate and complete income of people. And that can only be done if we use technology to stay ahead of the curve.
And in another development, the finance minister in the 2020 budget disclosed that the government had secured $250 million from the World Bank as part of resources to operationalize a national development bank. Government says this is a key step in dealing with lending to productive sectors of the economy. But what do other players in the productive sector also believe? CEO of AGI, Seth Chuma Kwabwa, spoke on Business Edition of PM Express.
And the areas he's mentioned are very important. He's talking about NIB, for example, being supported, ADB. These are critical financial institutions for development. NIB for industrial development, ADB for agricultural development. The entire chain must work. And then they are coming up with a development bank. And indeed, the essence of having a development bank is to be able to give a different kind of funding, not the typical commercial lending, which is short-term in nature, very short moratorium, with very high interest rates and all that. So if you're able to have effective development bank, it means that it's going to intervene in the area of long-term funding. And if you want to do one district, one factory, it is so critical that you have a kind of financing arrangement that supports it. Bear in mind that if you take the one district, one factory, for example, most of them are startups because the industries are not already existing in the district. That's why we say one district, one factory. So they are basically new industries that are going to be set up. Meanwhile, when you go to the normal commercial banks, they are going to be asking for, your 3-year or so, 3 to 5 years, 3 to 5 years financial records and all that. And you don't have that. And therefore, you need a kind of financing mechanism that is project-oriented.
And that'll be it on Business Live tonight. Thank you very much for your company. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a great weekend.